Good Tuesday afternoon to each and every one of you. Thank you so much for joining us today as we continue our walk through history, specifically our walk through the book of Ruth that is found in the Old Testament that follows on the tail of the book of Judges. We have been engaged in that study. We had been engaged in that study for many of the past weeks and going through a very dark and difficult text at times. And yet we saw this little glimmer of light at the end of the Judges tunnel, and that light has been Ruth, and we have enjoyed going through chapters 1 and 2 last week. And this week we're going to get into chapters 3 and 4 to see the conclusion of this beautiful story, an absolutely beautiful story showing not only great characteristics and positive characteristics of men and women, but most importantly, the faithfulness of God and the way that he works behind the scenes to bring about the accomplishing of his will. If you're looking for a case study and that taking place, let me encourage you to just read through Ruth. Though God is not mentioned specifically all that much, or it's not said too much of what he is specifically doing, we can definitely see his providence being at play throughout this book. And it's been a joy to read and walk through it thus far, and looking forward to doing that this week as well as we conclude it. Joining me as always is my good friend Alan Sinastring. Alan, it is good to see you today. Hope you're doing well, and hope you're ready to get into maybe some more judge type scandal here in chapter 3 that we're going to look at today.
Yeah, there's definitely some this could have taken a different turn, definitely, for sure. It'd have been a whole different book if it had gone I guess Naomi's way, what she was thinking. But Ruth's going to prove to be the heroine that we wanted.
That's right. So far in the story, Alan, we've seen the bitterness of Naomi. If we're going to be honest and sympathetic, she has had a tough go, but she hasn't exactly shown herself to be as faithful as we might hope. Some of the things that she's doing, some of the emphasis that she's putting on various things in her life isn't showing herself to really be the heroine of the story. I think that definitely falls more upon the faithfulness of Ruth, and then we have the nobility of Boaz. Both of those two characters, both Boaz and Ruth, are going to show their character here within this particular chapter. Although, as you mentioned, Naomi might have wished for things to go in a different direction. Let's read through the chapter real fast, and then I will get back here and let you start telling us about what we're seeing here at the beginning of the chapter. We're reading in the book of Ruth, chapter 3 and verse 1, where it reads that Ruth's mother-in-law Naomi said to her, "My daughter, shouldn't I find rest for you so that you will be taken care of? Now, isn't Boaz our relative? Haven't you been working with his female servants? This evening he will be winnowing barley on the threshing floor. Wash, put on perfumed oil, and wear your best clothes. Go down to the threshing floor, but don't let the man know you are there until he has finished eating and drinking. And when he lies down, notice the place where he's lying. Go in and uncover his feet and lie down. Then he will explain to you what you should do." So Ruth said to her, "I will do everything you say." And she went down to the threshing floor and did everything her mother-in-law had charged her to do. After Boaz ate, drank, and was in good spirits, he went to lie down at the end of the pile of barley. And she came secretly, uncovered his feet, and lay down. And at midnight, Boaz was startled, turned over, and there lying at his feet was a woman. So he asked, "Who are you?" "I am Ruth, your servant," she replied. "Take me under your wing, for you are a family redeemer." Then he said, "May the Lord bless you, my daughter. You have shown more kindness now than ever before, because you have not pursued younger men, whether rich or poor. Now don't be afraid, my daughter. I will do for you whatever you say, since all the people in my town know that you are a woman of noble character. Yes, it is true that I am a family redeemer, but there is a redeemer closer than I am. Stay here tonight, and in the morning, if he wants to redeem you, that's good. Let him redeem you. But if he doesn't want to redeem you, as the Lord lives, I will. Now lie down until morning." So she lay down at his feet until morning, but got up while it was still dark. And then Boaz said, "Don't let it be known that a woman came to the threshing floor." And he told Ruth, "Bring the shawl you're wearing and hold it out." And when she held it out, he shoveled 6 measures of barley into her shawl, and she went into the town. She went to her mother-in-law, Naomi, who asked her, "What happened, my daughter?" And then Ruth told her everything the man had done for her. And she said, he gave me these 6 measures of barley because he said, don't go back to your mother in law empty handed. Naomi said, my daughter, wait until you find out how things go, for he won't rest until he resolves this today. Alan, as we get back to the beginning of this chapter, it is set up to be a somewhat scandalous event. There's a man by himself at night in a secluded area, outside of the town, on the threshing floor, which would have been a very hard packed surface, maybe a massive stone, in which they would uh, either have livestock of some sort that would press down on the grain in order to separate it from the stalk, or maybe they have a big round stone that they roll around. Whatever the case may be, we have a man, secluded area at night, and here is Naomi saying, Ruth, you need to go to him. Alan, is this as scandalous as I'm making out to be, or am I making much to do about nothing? What do you think?
it, it's a little tough to read in the English version, but we even reading it in English, we can kind of pick up on some of the subtle language that's being used. I mean, first, Naomi tells her to wash and put on oil, wear your best clothes. I mean, we kind of understand, if you're trying to seduce someone or get someone to like you, that's we do the same thing. But even more than that, just all of these terms, when he lies down, uncovering your feet, lying down, a lot of these are, euphemisms that we might see elsewhere in the
Mhm.
scriptures. And we've talked about this before with Ruth and her reputation at being a Moabitess, and just the reputation that Moabite women would have had in this time, especially the ones that pop up in the biblical record. Well, their entire history is one of sexual seduction. I mean, pretty much anytime the Moabites come into play, there's something along those lines that have to do with some sort of uh, strange or wicked sexual encounter, whether that be at their very beginning with Lot and his 2 daughters, or way down the road when the Israelites were wandering in the wilderness and passing by Moab, and all of the issues with Baal Peor. This is the reputation that Moab had, and Naomi knows that. She lived there. I mean, she knows that history, both from the the standpoint of Israel, and just from living in Moab and seeing how they acted. So I think what's happening here is Naomi is trying to use that to help Ruth get a man basically and get a husband. This is the only way that Ruth will be able to hopefully have children, or for Ruth to be taken care of, and for Naomi to be taken care of too. If Ruth can find a good husband that will care for both of them. Uh, Naomi again, kind of showing she's not the best character here, trying to put these two together, and like you said, kind of a scandalous setting here, late at night by yourself, you know put on your best clothes, wash, perfume, everything. And she sends it, and Ruth does it almost. She doesn't do, and that's where Ruth's true character comes in, because she does. I mean, she says, I'll obey you, I'll do what you say, but she doesn't do she doesn't follow the subtle hints that Naomi's kind of dropping here. Naomi's expecting this to go one way. Ruth does it the proper way, the sinless way. And I think that's why you see Boaz's even greater reaction uh, to her. May the Lord bless you, verse 10. You've shown more kindness now than before by not, trying to do this in a wrong way, or trying. I mean, he kind of acknowledges, like, hey, you could have done this with a younger, more attractive man, but or even richer, rich or poor, whoever. You could have done that anywhere, but you chose to do this the proper way, and he's honored by this, I think, just by the way she's acting.
Right. I think everything, as you're saying, even though it's not explicitly stated what Naomi was trying to do, I believe all the hints that are here within this text, and then the background story of all these people and where they came from, I believe it does very clearly lead us to the understanding of Naomi encouraging seduction here. You mentioned Ruth being a Moabitess, but also think about Naomi and where she comes from. She comes from the tribe of Judah. And we go all the way back in Judah's story to the story between him and Tamar, and this nearly exact same situation, a concealing of one's identity, leading to seduction, and eventually leading to a pregnancy with Tamar, and between Tamar and Judah. Take what you said about the Moabites, at least that being the people that Ruth comes from. Go back to their history, go back to their roots. What's involved there? A man lying down, full of alcohol. What is his wife? What do his daughters do? Talking about a lot here. His daughters go and take advantage of him, which might be something that Boaz is referring to here. She did not take advantage of me, and he appreciates that. I do think just all the clues here are leading us towards this seduction plan of Naomi. You're talking about what she wanted Ruth to do, to wash, put on perfume, and wear your best clothes. Uh, Customs in this culture is that if you're a widow, you dress like one. You dress like someone who others will recognize as being a widow. And this seems to be her telling Ruth, Naomi telling Ruth, show yourself as being available now. Show yourself as being someone who is ready to engage in a relationship, or maybe to get married again. Don't look like a widow, or maybe don't look like a farmer. Maybe she's been dressed like that as she's been out in the field. Show yourself as being presentable. And I think it's interesting too that whenever Ruth goes to Boaz, what she says in verse number 9. Let's see here, verse number 9. Yeah, whenever he asks, "Who are you?" she says, "I am Ruth, not the Moabitess, but your servants." Go back, and I haven't done this, but we can go back in the text time and time and time again. The author emphasizes Ruth being a Moabitess, and I believe he's doing that to show the faithfulness of someone who isn't even a part of Israel, which could be a slap in the face to those who do belong to Israel in this moment, because going back to Judges, those who did belong to Israel, they were acting more like those who were outside of Israel. But here we have one inside, or excuse me, here we have one outside of Israel who has come into Israel and is acting like someone who God would expect his people to behave like. And certainly that character is very much appreciated by Boaz, and certainly it's appreciated and honored by God too. We mentioned in one of the two earlier studies that in some of the Jewish writings, or at least the way that they arrange the Old Testament books, Ruth comes directly after Proverbs, which the 31st chapter of Proverbs is the worthy woman. And it seems that they arranged it in a way to show, here's how the worthy woman is described. Now we're going to show you a worthy woman, a woman of noble character in Ruth. And so many of the things that are described in Proverbs 31 are applicable to Ruth. That she's a hard worker. She cares for others. She's diligent. Eventually, speaks about her husband being able to sit in the city gates, and her future husband Boaz. Spoiler alert again. I apologize if you haven't read it yet, but he's that type of person. So for them, it was, here is the principle. Here are the principles, and here is a real life example of someone who fit those particular principles. And then that would be followed up by a Song of Solomon, which of course is a very intimate book speaking about love, and of course the story of Boaz and Ruth is one of the great love stories of Scripture. There is so much to really appreciate about Ruth here in this moment, even if she is being set up, I believe, and you believe as well. I think the evidence leads us in that direction of Naomi wanting her to be scandalous and to be seductive. Yeah, I'm really impressed with Ruth. What I'm really impressed about Ruth as well, though, is the fact that she's able to honor Naomi's wishes, but at the same time not do so. I like how Jared Salt says, he says that she submits, and yet at the same time subverts what Naomi says, and that's commendable. But I want you to talk about this, Alan, real fast. What do you think about Boaz here, as he does he does commend her for her nobility, her noble character. But what about his character here? We go back to chapter 2 and we read that he was a prominent man of noble character. I think some of that nobility is shown here in the fact that in what he admits, beginning there in verse 12. What is it that he admits, and how does that prove just the type of man that he is?
Well, he admits he's not first in line for this role as Redeemer, so he knows there's some steps that uh, need to happen, and uh, this whole idea of Redeemer, it can be a positive and it can be a negative. For Boaz, this is really going to be kind of a negative for him, uh, because I mean Ruth's not going to bring anything to the table. They're poor. They're gleaning. They're what they can eat from the
Mhm.
fields. They have nothing. No sort of money that he can kind of take over. I mean, he's really uh, the only thing he would be doing is hopefully, you know, giving her a child that the name of the family can continue,
Mhm.
and later on we'll see that, you know, with the first redeemer uh, that declines the job. You know, he doesn't want to really do this, especially because of that reason that he would have to, you know, hit all of his children wouldn't really be his through Ruth. So this is a difficult task for someone to take on, but he's going to go about this the right way. He's going to make sure that the first one uh, is at least let known about it. But we're going to see in the next chapter that he kind of makes sure the circumstances lead to where he and Ruth end up together. And he makes her. I mean, he promised her. Is I mean, if he redeems you, let him do it. But if he doesn't, I will. So he gives her that assurance. So Ruth at this point is happy. She knows she's going to be taken care of either way. But obviously, I would assume she'd rather go with Boaz than some random name, you know, unknown redeemer that she hasn't even met yet. And you know, going back to that verse 9, I think is just such a Ruth doesn't really say much in this whole book. It's usually other people talking, Naomi or Boaz. But when she does speak, it's very powerful. I mean, think of chapter 1, that whole, you know, entreat me not to leave you, you know, where you lodge, I will lodge. Your God, your people will be my people. And then here, you know, when, like you said, the entire book she's identified as a Moabitess, but when she identifies herself as your servant, and take me under your wing. That kind of harkens back to chapter 2 and
Well,
verse 12, when Boaz himself, you know, says, you know, bless you.
mhm.
May the Lord bless you, under whose wings you have come for refuge. Well, that refuge, it comes in the form of Boaz. And I think she sees what that she sees that she's starting to see the big picture there. So, you know, she is under the wing of God, which is also the wing of Boaz here, as the family redeemer. So very beautiful imagery, and very powerful statements by Ruth.
Absolutely. And continuing on in verse 14, notice the care that Boaz has for her. He knows the situation right now where she's with him in this particular place at the threshing floor at night, just the two of them. He doesn't want people to see this and think any lesser of her. So he says, hey, we're going to hide here and we're going to get you out fine. And oh, by the way, I also want to give you some barley that you can take back for Naomi to provide for her needs. Just everything that we see here is just very commendable all around from everyone that is involved, at least with Boaz and Ruth. Of course, once she gets back to Naomi and tells her everything that happened, Naomi, verse 18 says, my daughter, wait until you find out how things go, for he won't rest unless he resolves this today. Now, of course, that's what Naomi is hoping takes place too, because I have to remember as well, as we're looking at this story, it's much more complicated than just finding a husband for Ruth. It's much more complicated than that. It is the whole Leverett type of continuing of a family line. And again, just to explain what we're talking about here, if you have a husband and wife, and let's say the husband's name is Joe, the wife's name is Mary, and the husband dies, then the expectation in this culture was for the brother of Joe to take on Mary as a wife. We'll say that's Steve. Steve is now to marry
Or
Mary.
the nearest
Um,
relative.
yeah, and the nearest relative, which we don't know exactly the relationship between Boaz and Ruth's husband. I believe her husband was Malone, right? I believe that's right. Um, we don't know the relationship there, but he was in the position, at least as far as they knew, to be that person. So Steve would marry Mary, and that was a poor name choice on my part, but he would marry Mary. But any children that came from that would in a sense belong to Joe. He was doing that to serve Joe and to allow his lineage to continue on. But it's not just about lineage, it's also about land
Mhm.
and wealth that might have been within that family. Uh, so in doing this particular thing, it Boaz would have been doing a great service, but at the same time, Naomi would benefit in a big way because, in a sense, the person or the child that would come from any relationship with Ruth would belong to Naomi and honor her and her lineage in some way. So this isn't so simple that Ruth's trying to simply find a husband for her to be taken care of. I mean, go back to verse 1. My daughter, should I find rest for you so that you'll be taken care of? I mean, that might be part of it, but Naomi's also looking for her own inheritance, for her own descendant to be born. So let's keep that in mind, because I really think that's going to come into play more in chapter 4 as we look at what happens once a descendant finally does come into the picture, and what Naomi does in that moment. But we'll save that for chapter 4 on Friday. Alan, what else do you have here for chapter 3 you might want to share today before we close out for the study?
Uh, I like that last verse too. Naomi just saying, he won't rest until he resolves this today. So uh, this isn't something that Boaz is just going to put off for a little while. Wait till after. This is of importance to Ruth, of importance to Naomi, and he's going to take care of that very next day. It seems like. So there's no delay. He's again just showing his character. This is important. Let's take care of it right now.
Yeah, go back to chapter 1 and verse 17, whenever Ruth is talking to Naomi and telling her just how seriously she's taking this vow that she is giving to Naomi. May the Lord punish me and do so severely if anything but death separates you from me. At that point, Naomi knows that Ruth's taking this very seriously, and it's going to happen. So she doesn't even try to argue. She just stops talking to Ruth in that moment. And I think the same principle is true here. Whenever it comes to Boaz, Boaz says, "As the Lord lives, I will." If this man doesn't redeem you, it doesn't serve you in the way he needs to, then as the Lord lives, I will. Both of these people show themselves to be very, very serious whenever it comes to promises that they make, and they're going uh, to show how serious they are by invoking the Lord in this. And once Naomi sees that with Ruth, she says, "All right, that's what you're going to do." And once she hears this is what Boaz has said, she's, "All right, that's what he's going to do." So let's just see what happens now in this moment. We certainly have seen up to this point the bitterness of Naomi. We've seen the nobility of Boaz, and now I believe here we see the worthy nature of Ruth. She's a fine example of godly character, and she shows that to be true of herself here within this particular section of the story, when she might have even been encouraged to not display such a character.
And even everyone knows it. I mean, that verse I highlighted, verse 11, since all the people in my
That's
town know
right.
that
Yeah.
you are a
Yeah.
woman. This isn't just Boaz's
Mhm.
opinion. This is the general consensus. And that's incredible considering, again, she was a Moabite. She probably came in with different ideas, different culture. I mean, even though she dedicated herself to Naomi, I mean, she didn't just come in, 100% the best, the best Hebrew girl ever. I mean, she still had a lot to learn, but those things are not quite as important as just who you are, the type of person you are, your character, and that it clearly shown through to the entire town at this point.
Absolutely. And we're going to continue to see the character, the good character of Boaz and Ruth shown as we finish up this book on Friday with chapter 4. And we'll also see kind of the ending of Naomi and what the writer has to say about her and kind of what it is that she's getting at throughout this entire story. Hope you'll join us for that as we look through Ruth chapter 4 on Friday. Thank you so much for joining us today. If you do have any questions about what we've talked about, if you want to discuss anything further, please feel free to leave us a question or comment here in the comment box, or you can shoot us a message on the Pleasant Plains Facebook page or on our website, armorofgodonline.com. We'd love to discuss those things with you or serve you in any way that we can. We just appreciate you being here. I hope this has been beneficial to you, and I hope that all of our studies that we've done as we've walked through the Bible have been beneficial to you. If you want to go back and catch any of them, they're all recorded here on the Facebook page or on the YouTube channel for your convenience anytime you'd like to go back and look at what we've studied thus far. Again, thank you for being here. Hope you have a great rest of your day. God bless you in all that you do, and hope you join us next time, Friday, 3:15, as we continue our walk through history. The story of God's word is found within the Bible. Ruth chapter 4, concluding this beautiful story. Hope you'll join us for that. Take care, and God bless.